Welcome back to the CCL, and we have one more match here on stream to finish up week number 2. And hey, here's the thing. A lot of this week and the first week, obviously, because no one had played any matches, featured a lot of undefeated teams. That is not the case here with our final matchup. As you see it right above the screen, New Jersey Institute of Technology lost one match already. They're going to be playing up against Rutgers, and I've got Proper with me to try to break this one down. This is a rivalry, grudge match here just between these two schools being very close in proximity with one another. And, well, I don't think they're going to like each other very much inside the lobbies either.
I'm expecting a lot of bodies to be shot here on. I'm expecting a lot of crap talk. Let's put it that way, right? I almost said the other way, but I'm expecting it to come all the way through. I mean, I won't be able to see inside the lobby, but I want to see the beef come through on some Twitter. I want some storylines to be built between these two teams. I want the passion to come through. In the Northeast, Pool D, expect nothing less. A bunch of passionate individuals are going to be filling up this lobby.
I'm here for it. Let's take a look at both of these teams head-to-head through 3 games thus far. Rutgers has been, well, let's be honest, they really haven't been tested yet.
Right.
And, you know, there are some shared opponents that they've played up against so far in their schedule. But the biggest thing for me is that one right next to NJIT. They were, came in with high expectations, JT Speed & Co. This is the first year they've really been able to put together a solid 4, but they had that surprise Map 5 loss to Rowan, which, at least fortunately, they're able to keep their top 25 ranking in some form, but it's still not a great loss for them.
Yeah, and it's surprising because a lot of people, when you talk about New Jersey Institute of Technology, is that their search and destroy is gross, that they are a tried and true search and destroy team. But when they lost to Rowan, it went to map 5, to your point, everything was close until they got to map 5, and then they got absolutely smoked. They lost that search and destroy 1-6, so definitely a lot of consideration to be here, even going against for how Rutgers need to be tested as well.
Yeah, we'll take a look over at our home team roster here for the New Jersey Institute of Technology. The biggest thing for this team, as mentioned, I think the first place you have to look is right on over to what we're going to get out of JT Speed. He was, a kind of an electric player through last year. He's got 2 returning players with him, and Money G and Locks. The new guy in the block is SpaghettiOs. Brilliant name, by the way, just for what it's worth. But the biggest thing here is, if this team is going to be solid in search and destroy, what's up with the hard point, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Locks is going to be the guy to be looking at. I mean, when we were casting over this team last season during Cold War, we always found ourselves talking about Money G constantly, but Locks was always that steady individual that NJIT could absolutely rely on. Had a 1.66 KD overall all throughout last year, and a lot of that work came through in Search and Destroy. They had a 1.75, Alan, so that's what you're mostly relying on. Again, the talk of the town is that this New Jersey Institute of Technology roster is gross at Search still.
We'll take a look over at Rutgers. The biggest thing here for the Scarlet Knights is the fact that they came off last year, with a really successful regular season. But as you started to get deeper and deeper kind of towards the playoffs, obviously there was kind of a big surprise there that they didn't make a deeper run than they did, considering the fact that they lost in that surprise losers round 1 matchup to Concord Gray. But ZB3 is back. He's got 3 new members to join him here. And I would say at least, for ZB3, he did come off of a solid year last year. And I think a lot of expectations would be that he would at least be able to do the same here in the Vanguard year.
Yeah, 1.51 overall KD through the Cold War season, 1.55 KD throughout Search and Destroy, was a mainstay as far as Rutgers were concerned. They are now taking the place as the captain. So the biggest consideration for Rutgers here is, what does that mean for the rest of the team? Is ZB going to be their IGL? Is he more or less just the leader and the staple here for the Scarlet Knights to be able to pursue victory further on down the road?
Yeah, and, there's key questions, and I think the biggest thing for both of these two teams is the fact that, at the beginning of the year when the schedule came out, we were kind of looking at this one in particular for this Northeast Pool D, that this could be the determinant of who walks away number 1 maybe in this region, or in this pool rather specifically. But with NJIT losing, now things start to become a little bit more questionable. We'll kind of dig into the map set here as we kind of finish off, what needs to happen here for both of these two teams. The good news is for New Jersey, hey, you had your bounce back matchup already. You're coming off of a 3-0, but let's be honest, it was an expected at least win, if not 3-0. You got to show up here. This is the matchup that really matters. Otherwise, the Owls win from Rowan is really going to hang over your head.
Oh, it absolutely will, right? I mean, this is the bounce back match. Say what you will about the 3-0 versus Delaware. I don't know how close all of those maps necessarily were, but you got to be able to bring it inside this best of 5. You can see the first guaranteed 3 maps, Bocage, Hardpoint, Double Dose of Tuscan will be a guaranteed 3. If we have to go through the 4th and 5th map, we'll see a Berlin Hardpoint and then a Damian Search and Destroy. And honestly speaking, yeah, I want to be able to see the Scarlet Knights be pushed against the wall, and I want to be able to see what NJIT have been able to learn from their Map 5 loss from Rowan last week. Didn't get to utterly see them, what they look like versus Delaware, but I can only imagine that it was a nice little warm-up ahead of what seemingly might just be the solidification of who's going to be the #1 team within this pool.
Difficult task here. It's just crazy because if I'm not mistaken, as far as the rankings came out, I want to say that New Jersey Institute of Technology, NJIT, was the only team with a loss that still retained a top 25 spot. I will go ahead and mark it right now. You will not be on that list with 2 losses. And for Rutgers just kind of sneaking in at number 20, even a loss here to NJIT could potentially bounce them out. Now, I think you still look at this pool, largely speaking, and say, okay, we're going to split this up into segments of 3. You would think that both of these 2 teams should still exit in the top 3 position. It just comes down to where, I think, overall. Because I think when we go back by the end of the year and look at both of these 2 teams, if they're getting ready for playoff runs or maybe if things weren't going well for them in the second stage, I think you look at this matchup as a marquee kind of maybe framework of where things started to go right or maybe where things started to go wrong. I hate to say that week 2 in, but this is a pretty crucial matchup really early on in this regular season.
Yeah, I'm feeling the seesaw effect here of whether or not it's going to be the true bounce back for NJIT if they end up closing this out. It doesn't matter in how many maps but they end up winning. That's the bounce back that we're more or less alluding to, that we want to be able to see this New Jersey roster be able to fall into their own. But if you come out and you get 3-0'd by Rutgers, then that's going to be quite alarming in a lot of people's eyes. And to your point, yeah, no one's going to really be on the top 25, at least even in the limelight of being in a top 25 team with 2 losses in 2 weeks worth of being played. But it's going to make Rutgers move up in their stonks for sure if they're able to take down this team in a 3-0 fashion for sure.
Yeah, because honestly, again, looking at the schedule, this one has got to be circled day 1. You get your schedule, you say, oh boy, not just because it's a rivalry matchup, but because both of these 2 teams are ranked. So, let's just kind of maybe dig through a little bit here, a little bit more broadly while we're waiting for the first map to start up. Biggest takeaways on the map series set, or where you're kind of looking, let's just start it with NJIT. Are we specifically looking at the fact that, hey, you've got to win both search and destroys and then steal away a hard point somewhere else? Or where are you kind of seeing win condition largely in this full 5-map series set being built out for the side of NJIT?
It's definitely going to be in the Tuscans for me, Alan, when it comes down to New Jersey Institute. I mean, all things considered, Bocage, I never really put too many stocks or favors into either of these 2 teams unless I know that they're just gross on triple SMG or even quad at some point. I don't know that for a fact for either of these 2 teams. I mean, we can sit here and we can frame up all the previous KDs, but without extensive knowledge, it's hard to be able to judge how the Bocage hardpoint is going to go. But for New Jersey Institute of Technology, I'm mostly looking at, yes, the search and destroy to be able to at least come back from the bounce of what they face in a 1-6 loss to Rowan University week 1 of CCL regular season, but also in the Tuscan hardpoint. How do you favor and looking for long rotations when you're able to battle for scrap time, when you're able to work for that rotation and set yourself up for money hills, specifically 3, to be able to lock down a solid 40, if not a full 60?
Okay. Other side for Rutgers, here's the thing. We've already framed it up, and I think the biggest hard-hitting point is that JT and his squad really do pride themselves on being solid in search and destroy. Now, again, we've got some expectations that were not met, from that Game 5 loss. It was not a close one, but you have to feel like you figured out that you've worked it all out. You're back ready to go. For Rutgers, do you think there is a pathway for them to win this series just in the 3 hard points, or do you want to see something more from them in the search and destroy specifically?
I mean, it's hard not to look at the numbers and say that it's going to be the hard points. It's going to be the respawns when it comes down to Rutgers University, that they might be benefited from not having that control game mode in quite yet. Again, we're going to be playing that in CCL regular season starting next week. This team hasn't dropped the hard point. Now, the only map that they did lose, I'm sure you saw that when we were looking at the head-to-head, they are 2-1 overall when it comes down to search. That was to Farmingdale, again, a school that a lot of people probably don't know even exists, but they were able to hand Rutgers University a hot 6-0 on the search and destroy. So, yeah, I think it could be a little bit of a stretch, surely. I mean, off of everything that we're being told that, New Jersey Institute of Technology, they got the absolute gutso when it comes down to the search and destroy. That's their tried and true game mode. But for Rutgers, it's got to come through the respawn. Clearly, they're still putting up some solid numbers. We already talked about what ZB is able to bring to the table from their numbers in the previous season during Cold War, and it seems like everybody else is following suit along with them.
Oh, sorry. I think my note just skipped right there. I looked over and I was like, wait, I don't hear anything anymore. My bad on that. I don't know. I'm curious because From the Search and Destroy's perspective, we have instances on both sides where either team, no matter which perspective you're looking at, they've been kind of worked. And I kind of wonder, like, is it whoever just sets the tone and the pace first is going to roll through? Like, is there just a lack of adjustments coming out from either of these two teams? Hard to say for now, but we'll definitely kind of reframe up that question when we get to map number 2. But let's kick things off, as we have for a lot of our series. Bacage, Hardpoint, map number 1. And look, here's the thing. I'm always looking at the new guys up. And you put together a name like SpaghettiOs like that. I'm watching you, brother. I feel a little hungry.
Hard not
I want to
to
see some of that feasting happen here.
Oh my. Just immediately already picture, like, I don't even know what SpaghettiOs looks like, but I just picture him as actually
Wait,
like...
you've never had SpaghettiOs?
No, I don't know what SpaghettiOs the player looks like, bro. I'm a 90s kid. Of course I've had SpaghettiOs, but I picture that SpaghettiO is the embodiment of the SpaghettiO character that was in, like, the early, like, 2000s commercial. I'm probably showing my age just a little bit too much, but maybe they're all fun, hype, and friendly like that, too. We'll have to see as we start off here on Bocage. Again, in the cage, things get rather mixy, or they can. We've seen this become quite swiftly if the team comes out with a hot hand.
Even trade so far, it looks like largely for the Highlanders of NJIT. They are making their play to try to flip the spawns around, and as JT spawns up, they will recognize that, yes, we have done that. Rutgers, though, trying to fight this back. Really, not really anything happening over the hard point itself. It's all a negotiation for spawns, and this is not diplomatic in any form at the moment. It's very much so aggressive. ZB3 trying to set up maybe a bit of a headquarters here in Barn, but we'll very quickly realize that it is NJIT who are still reinforcing with numbers, and as they do, the fight for spawns largely has already been won by the Highlanders in a nice little play from SpaghettiOs, looking for an early 3-piece and converts.
ZB3 will take them down, but hey, this is normal Bocage bread and butter, right? You're happy to be able to walk away with about 10 to 15 seconds at your best when it comes down to P1. Very mixy hardpoint, but it comes down to holding those tin spawns, which NJIT are going to be looking at to be able to do, but the hard hit from the center of the mat is actually Hybrid. They actually slipped the entire net. They're able to take down Locks up top. That's a power position to be quite weary of. Now it comes down to reading the spawns. NJIT spawning closer towards the River Road.
Yeah, good read from Hybrid as well, knowing that they are going to be spawning over in that river position. Oh, brilliant kill as well, right over the haystack. 3 in a row for Hybrid. Master of his domain inside of the barn, although JT speed. Brilliant read to make sure he's able to convert onto 2. Stuns now coming through, so JT makes his move around the back. Largely gets denied, but at least for the Highlanders, they are able to contest sometime from the front, and actually JT will once again spawn up behind, and Rutgers have no idea. But the shots come through, and nearly JT had a bit of a reversal come in, but doesn't make too much of a difference. There was no help one way or the other, so as the scrap time will largely go the way of the Scarlet Knights, the rotation fight now starting to be the focus for NJIT.
Yeah, and grannies can be turned into a money hill if you can at least hold those closer spawns, and you can already see what's happening on the minimap. Perseus had a great look at those spawns. Immediately won't be flipped out for NJIT, but you're quite content with this position. Holding from the front is absolutely viable in P3.
Hybrid trying to find at least some real estate to work with inside at the hard point. Denied. Nades now coming through. Ryuga in. Finds the first kill. Tries to turn to deal with spawns, but the kill feed is clean. The help comes through perfectly. Perseus involved to watch the cross. And actually, hold on a second. Rutgers have no idea that NJIT have still spawned in the back. They thought that they secured it, and as they start to recognize where their flaws are, they try to plug the holes in the GAM, but they're not quite able to do so, as the Highlanders will break through unexpectedly.
And now the spawns will finally end up flipping. Very, very tough to be able to flip out those spawns. You really got to get a player all the way on the north side of the hedges if you want to end up spawning those bad boys out. But hey, with time and due practice, you'll probably end up learning that later on down the road. Scrap time will be conceded here for NJIT. Well, SpaghettiOs actually thinking about hitting it one more time, and that's a great challenge to be able to dwindle out the numbers. But the problem is that nobody was fully watching the flank. Perseus has worked their way in the back and actually got Ryuga to spawn in.
First couple of kills, great for the Highlanders. JT trying to chase down the last Scarlet Knight remaining on the outside, but Money G beats him with the punch. And now the hit to try to break for Rutgers, starting to position itself right from the front and middle. Most of it coming from the side doors. EV3 in, nice correction as he's able to find SpaghettiOs, and that allows a 1v1 to start to unfold on the point. Ryuga not loving the look of it, backs away. Tries to flip the spawns run. As he does, he finds an opening in the back door, looking for the double! Ryuga! Brilliant play! One more to find inside the hill. He's trying to work this with Perseus and the collective 2. That's going to be enough for Rutgers to go 2v3 and break the hard point.
Just getting a little mixy inside the cage. That's what you definitely love to see if you're a fan of either of these two teams, but it's going to be the Scarlet Knights that come out on top of it, and scrap time, again, means just about everything as much as it does initial here on Bocage, and this was a fantastic P4 hill for Rutgers able to get the amount of time that they did. Now 89 v 55. We go towards B5. This can turn into a money hill if you're holding on to the power positions, but everybody from NJIT, they get wiped off the map on the backside of Granny's. Last player's Money G inside the hill. They're going to be dealt with. So now NJIT spawning out. Rutgers are in.
Got a hold here, though. High ground positioning for JT Speed. The rest of his team trying to come through. Granny's hybrid looking to deny, but it's Ryuga again from the back. The timing perfect. Give him the triple. And then right under the hard point, young man. 3 in a row for him. 18 and 11. 40 seconds plus on the hard point itself. And for NJIT, it's just like, oh, what else do we have to do?
I mean, you got to think that it's mostly the consistent slays that are coming across the board. Locks being that one player that we were gassing up more than anything, or specifically me, talking about their previous stat records being double negative here on Bocage. Definitely not a happy place to be, but it's Rutgers that are constantly finding these 3-for-1s, these 3-for-2s in certain places in time, and they're consistently doing it. It's influential kills that we keep on talking about when it's hard point here on Vanguard, and Rutgers through this first set have been able to really turn things up, at least in the latter half of the hard points.
Well, back over to the second set and into the courtyard. Into the fray they go. JT on a 3 spree. You would almost think that, hey, why not try to play for streaks here? And he may have found a bit of an opening to get behind some of the Scarlet Knight members. Hybrid trying to deal with them. Not able to. Back over to the hard point. ZB3 looking for a double of his own. But from the top rope, JT Speed comes leaping from what looked to be about cruising altitude of a fighter pilot. Hybrid on the outside denied, and for now, hey, Highlanders are fine with this. They're still soaking up a large majority of the time that's come and gone so far in this first hill.
Yeah, and they could use it, right? These consistent slays that are coming in towards the first hard point during the second set are actually going to be beneficial. It's a handful of seconds at that, but Rutgers are going to quickly put that to a stop. You got to start looking at the battle towards those tin spawns. That's exactly where ZB3 is going to be located at. Now they're tasked to hold this position, but I love this little rotation that's coming out from Rutgers. They spawn all the way on the southwest side of the map, Alan. They're trying to get players inside a barn, trying to get players to zone away the middle of the map because they know that they could turn P2 into money hill, but Locks finding 3, that's going to quickly dissuade any numbers towards the middle of the map. Now NJIT can start battling for some superior positioning.
Speaking of fighter pilots, strafing run called in from JT Speed, so maybe he was enabling himself to be that pilot. Fortunately found only a teammate and one other. That's not really going to influence the status of the hard point itself. Now the glide bomb, looking to maybe do the same. It's not quite going to connect to the player in the back, and with that, now all of a sudden, NJIT have to kind of scramble for this scrap time from the front, and if you don't take it by my candor, I don't think anybody in a Highlander uniform was really all that pleased about that prospect, and now all of a sudden, hold on. Perseus on 5 in a row has also made a mess of this rotation as Rutgers have gotten around the back. Sure, New Jersey is still spawning, but it's just not clean. And the kills over the middle of the map are also good. That's perfection from the Scarlet Knights as they break through. They soak up the scrap time. That will lead immediately into the initial time here on 3.
Yeah, beautiful rotation coming through, specifically from Perseus, being able to push through that water wheel, and now they're in a prime position on this top side of the Granny's patio to be able to continue to finesse their life. Doesn't push through the doorway. They're more focused on this water side of the map, and that's constantly forcing all of NJIT to always try to look at their flank. I mean, when they try to break through the front, Alan, they're being put in the blender. When they're trying to work for their flank, they're also getting put in the blender. Perseus is on 9 in a row, trying to look through the middle of the map. They're becoming absolutely twisted, finding a lot of damage in the middle of the map. Surely they're going to go down here. Yeah, they will. But what fantastic damage was found. And that just ends up being so much time that Rutgers were able to find for themselves, amounting a 100-point lead here on Bocage.
You know, it's crazy, man. You know, I don't know about, actually I do know about you. I know we really value like what happens at the heat map of the actual minimap itself with these rotations. And you really kind of look across the scoreboard for the Highlanders and it's just, yeah, there's a couple of faults and some poor stat lines here or there, but man, it just feels like all the moves they're trying to make are so close to being good until that one thing happens. It's just like that one kill they don't quite get, or that one Scarlet Knight member that is a little bit more proactive, and it just, that little bit of, you know, kind of extra pressure we're seeing from Rutgers is turning into so much freedom around the map. It really does feel like that's been the case in our first series, and it kind of feels like it's occurring here once again, even though NJIT are doing whatever they can to kind of get this back to marginal terms score-wise.
Yeah, the problem is influencing not only the kills on the map, Alan, it's influencing power positions on the map as well. And that's exactly what Rutgers have been able to do so well. But hold on, SpaghettiOs able to become a little bit mixy themselves, but it's things like that. I mean, SpaghettiOs, again, 26 and 30. They're putting up some decent numbers here on Bocage. JT Speed as well, 28 and 22. We saw a spree from them earlier. But it's influential kills that is constantly getting Rutgers in these power positions that are just always funneling NJIT to have less numbers than them and funneling them into low choke points to where they cannot simply find easy battles.
And, you know, that little bit of extra confidence when, let's just say, you go into a battle 4v4, even trades kind of come through, and, oh, wait a second, it's a 2v1 right now favoring Rutgers. Like, they are not hesitant with only 2 players up to continue to push. Like, it's just the presence they're starting to force NJIT to kind of respond to has been just too cumbersome, honestly speaking, because I keep going back. I mean, especially SpaghettiOs and JT, like, they've really put together a solid game so far. It's just, you know, they find themselves in 2v3s or 1v2s. It just feels like everything just gets stomped on the brakes. It just hasn't been recoverable, including this hard point right here. Brilliant strafing run comes through. There's 249, 250, inevitable. Rutgers strike first.
Rutgers putting on their best Thanos impression when it comes down to Bocage. It was competitive through the first series of hard points, only really amounted to maybe, what was it, like a 20, 25, maybe 30 at most going in towards the second set. But for me, it was really Perseus. So when you think about Bocage as a whole, even all the way up to the CDL, where do a lot of teams end up finding success? It comes through that one cracked individual, that one twisted player that can just push their life to the next limit, break through their own shell, and just finesse their life for a 9 spree on Bocage. It's already hard enough to be able to go 3 in a row on Bocage before you end up getting traded out. But when you value your life in such a decisive way of what we saw from Perseus, that does speak volumes. And I hate to really compare teams to even what you and I have casted, but think going back to when we were casting over Concord. Andrew Crook was almost doing the same thing, if not better than Perseus. But what Rutgers did better comparatively is that they were valuing what they could get from the rest of the map itself. Power positions over and over again. Inside the hard point, getting objective kills as well. SpaghettiOs still had 16 objective kills, going 26 and 34. But look at the non-traded kills comparatively from Rutgers to NJIT. That's how much more they were valuing their life, making sure that they always had each other's crosses, making sure that they were playing together and moving across the map as a 4-player squad. That speaks volumes to me more than anything when you're thinking about how mixy and how blender-heavy Bocage is as a map.
This is an interesting statistic for all of you other nerds in the family here. Tally up in your head the total average hill time. You've got, what, 27 average seconds per hill for Rutgers compared to the 13? Like, that, I think, goes to show a lot. Because you look down the highest streaks, you look down the non-traded kills, you look down the objective kills, those numbers are nearly 1 for 1. Or if the advantages are there, they're slight.
Yeah.
Then you look at the average hill time, or the average contested hill time as well. It's like the play on the objective for Rutgers, which is so much stronger. And I feel like a lot of that does kind of come back to the point of when you're in the middle of that first break attempt on Bocage, and let's just say there's a team that's breaking, and you're able to go 2 for 2, you're still putting pressure on with those last 2 members that are still alive, for if you're Rutgers. I felt like for NJIT, they lost those first 2 members on a break, and everything just kind of came to a bit of a stall. And they're just waiting for the next time all 4 players would get there. You're missing out on contested hill time when you do that. And obviously, you're missing out on the opportunity, even if you do break the next chance through, to actually win any significant hill time. So maybe there's something there. I don't know. I'm kind of speaking and spitballing all out.
I mean, this is a conversation that you, me, and many of our other colleagues actually had throughout Cold War. And it kind of transcends in COD titles to be able to come through in Vanguard as well. It's not only being proactive on the map, but it's being proactive for what your original role is. And to your point, talking about how those 2 players that did go down early for NJIT, it almost felt like it was rehearsed to a certain point that if those 2 players were still alive, that then becomes the route player. That then becomes the player to be able to get in the back, and the 2 players that were left alive was going to be left alive to be almost battling for the scrap time, watching the flank that could potentially end up coming through. It just almost feels like that NJIT were not being as proactive comparatively to what Rutgers brought to the table, Alan.
I like it. I like that a lot. So taking a look, map 2, we talked about this in brief. At the top of the matchup, it's Tuscan. And look, NJIT now all of a sudden, we were talking about this from Rutgers POV largely saying, hey, you got to come out here and maybe set the tone early, establish your pace, because for both of these teams, the losses that they've suffered on Search and Destroy have been pretty staggering. And it kind of gives you the impression that, whoa, wait a second. Like, what do we do? Like, do we know how exactly we want to be able to respond? How do we adjust? How do we adapt to what's going wrong for us? There's not a lot, at least based on what we've seen, just by the numbers right now. We don't really have the ability to see what had happened in those matches, but we kind of figure and assume that a lot of it is just like you get behind and you just never find a way to recover. Now, all of a sudden, NJIT is coming off of a pretty staggering map 1 loss, and all of our talking points about Rutgers got to come out hot and swinging if they want to take the search. Now I start to think, actually, maybe it's the other way around. Like, NJIT really need to come out and establish that we're going to play Highlander Search and Destroy here, not Scarlet Knight, Search.
Yeah, I mean, that is a testament to as old as time when it comes to Search and Destroy for Call of Duty. You never want to play the enemy's game. You never really want them to dictate the pace, and if it's the enemy team that is absolutely flying at you, comparatively to what we just saw from Bocage, from all 4 players, keep in mind, maybe there was like one player that was more ZV than anything, that was playing that very slow, trying to anchor out spawns in certain rotations type of role, that if you have SMGs just flying at you, that's the pace that they want to play. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to match that pace and match that energy. You almost want to go back to what I was talking about during the first series of the day, Alan. You want to play against the unforced errors. They're trying to almost disrespect the space on the map. Just hold the angles. Just wait. Just ADS it and just hold, because you know that they're going to get aggressive. And until they finally respect the space, then you can start taking it back. Then you can start disrespecting the space and start returning it back. There is never a time that I can go back and search and destroy history that I can honestly say that a team came out, got absolutely floored in the first 2 rounds because the enemy team was playing so fast that they then matched that energy and was able to come out on top. If I can, it's probably a very, very rare circumstance, but I like that idea. Come out, play Highlander Search and Destroy. Don't play Rutgers game. Play your own.
Well, we'll see. You have to feel for Rutgers. They're definitely feeling quite sanguine at the moment after the dominating win of Bocage. We don't see score lines like that all too often. At least you wouldn't figure between 2 teams in the top 25.
Yeah.
But Rutgers comes out with the Fury, and now they have a chance maybe to do the same here with their offense. Oh, ZV3 is going to play maybe a bit of a delayed smoke utility hit towards A. And then you're going to full hit the B, and it's worked. Oh, but Money G in the corner has a chance for a double to deny this early play to B. But as he falls after only getting 1, now all of a sudden the Highlanders have to make their move to try to recover this B site.
Yeah, now they have to kick it into high gear to be able to rotate on over. But the question is what's going to get caught on the rotation on SpaghettiOs top nest? They will be sought out there by ZB3. And this rotation over towards B is becoming rather potent with the bomb being planted. You got Locks in the back, potential to play a lot of different angles, but nobody read Ryoga inside of Church. This is a very uphill battle for Locks.
Hybrid in the corner, 1v1. Information's there. Stun comes out. Gunfight's won. And man, if that's the same setup again for Rutgers, I'd be really curious to see that from ZB3's perspective, because just based on where he was positioned off the minimap, it looked like it was all about, I'm just going to throw all my nades over towards A, maybe even hit as a smoke. I'm not sure if we're actually using smokes in Search and CCL, candidly. But regardless, throwing all your utility that way, you saw for a moment all of the Highlander defense rotated immediately to play outside A, except for the 1 player of Money G playing inside B. So I'll be curious to see that again.
Absolutely. We love good bait plays. Even out of round 1, we talk about the mental aspect when it comes down to Search and Destroy. Getting the mental game early, that is draining to play through a very long round of Search and Destroy. NJIT, though, it looks like that they're throwing a lot of utility across the monument side, but this isn't your average, very rush-heavy over towards A. You want to make sure that you at least get the stuns and get the nades out from the player's top church. That way you can feel comfortable to plant this bomb at A.
And where will that post-plant position be set up for? Are you going to try to play this off of JT speed, playing deep on Monument? Or are you going to try to sneak a little bit further forward? JT fell off the map! No! JT!
Plays.
Bro! You can't have it happen. That's 2 times tonight that we've seen someone fall off Tuscan. I didn't even know you could fall off Tuscan outside of the rooftops.
Well, I mean, think about it. If it's so heavily elevated over there, what's going on the rest of the side of the map? It almost feels like everything's on a cliff. I haven't explored to look over on the side of all the landscape that has to offer on the north side of the map over by the monument, but it feels like we're about 3 stories up here, brother. And yeah, you gotta be very careful when you're trying to finesse your life over there. Yeah, sucks, but you got to be able to bounce back, and this is going to be a point that I was going to bring up after getting milli-whopped on that Bocage hardpoint through the second set of rotations. NJIT is going to wipe the sweat off the brow, play their game here. Rutgers coming in towards this next round with a very notable strategy where they're just going to go for this very quick plan at A. It's not even being contested. The nade top church actually gets thrown over towards Vines.
Well, it's a good first blood. Bomb is planted, and Hybrid, since he is in position, at least find 1. Ryuga trying to get around the back. Tries to deny. Maybe a position over towards topside church. But a late rotation Perseus gets a big gunfight win on the outside. No diffusers being stuck at the moment. I think Perseus may have saw the shoulder of Money G. Now it gets the full body of him. And this will be a 1v3. Perseus back around the middle. Pistol in hand. Regen comes through. No one on as of yet. Lox is completely lost. And now the gunfight comes out. Pistol! Not going to make a difference that it's lost. Enough of the clock has been killed. And Rutgers go up 3-0.
Dude, that was... Okay, I just got a little bit more of an understanding for the landscape, dude. We're pretty high up here on Tuscan. I didn't even think.
It's not just that. It's a lot of fire over there, bro.
Yeah,
I've never looked off the map. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I literally never really consider looking off the map, considering I'm always getting absolutely had when it comes down to that P1 cross. But even still, this has been really good search and destroy. Really good fundamental search and destroy out of Rutgers. I mean, say what you will about the round previous to the one we just had to play out for us in NJIT, where they threw away lives. Let's be honest, quite literally as JT fell off the map. But considering the fact of just looking at timing, looking at being able to throw shoulders, it's been really good search and destroy out of Rutgers. Nice stun checks coming off the rip here. We'll find JT speed down to 20 HP. Does have the boomstick in hand, but you can see what this means for SpaghettiOs with having the bomb being carried by them. They need that coverage to be crossed for themselves before they can feel comfortable to go over towards A.
It's just, here's the thing. I feel like a lot of the time when we watch Search and Destroy, we really do look to see if there's value instead of how first blood engagements are going, but that's kind of a non sequitur at the moment. Like, it doesn't seem to make a difference for NJIT that they're winning these opening gunfights. Like, they've got full possession of A. The confidence just does not seem to be there. So they will get the plant. Perseus makes safe the middle of the map. Should be there for a trade. This will be another 1v3 as he loses his teammate before he can capitalize on Money G's position. So now the post plant. JT, sniper in hand, watching long. And SpaghettiOs is going to take position top nest. This will be a free kill for Perseus.
Oh, man.
And now it's down to SpaghettiOs, who has given up his position topside fire in order to maybe even rewrap. And depending on timing here, because SpaghettiOs may need to check this bomb, Perseus may get a look at him. Oh, but a stun check, nade check comes through. He voids the damage. He avoids the damage. Does SpaghettiOs get here in time to check it? Sure does, but boy, was I nervous about it.
You are not the only one. I think my heart skipped a beat. I might have fully stopped there for a second because, again, that little finesse around the wall. First of all, Perseus is twisted. The movement of this guy right now is just absolutely just balls to the wall. It's insane. But, like, at the same time, was given a good look at another 1v3 to clutch another round. Finally, NJIT do stop the bleeding. But it goes back to that confidence thing that you were bringing up. You know, when you have the sniper looking all the way across the monument side, you also had a player over past the middle map. You knew that Ryuga wasn't going to be in that position to stop the plant coming through. Get that sucker down. Get in a post-plant situation. You can see what it means for Rutgers, too. I mean, stuns and everything out the gate already. They're clearing all of their corners, and nade's going to be thrown up. That's going to find some damage on the locks, down to 10 HP, just barely keeping their life. And the bomb gets planted out of Rutgers.
I really like that set play from Rutgers as well. The whole investment on do we plant, do we not, is can we actually maybe stall out a player from actually peeking top church? That stun information into the nade immediately allows a mid-map post-plant situation. Free kill here for Perseus as he's still in spawn. Hasn't left yet. May needed to tie his shoes, although maybe not if he's not going to move. JT responds, but the problem is not a lot of time on the clock. 15 seconds. Locks from top church. Somehow still alive. Ryuga didn't see it. Now they have to turn, and as they do, they realize, oh, we made a bit of a mistake. And it all falls out of JT speed. 1v1, not enough time now to get the defuse off. And it will not make a difference as the kill comes through to confirm the elimination.
It was a great opening set play. They got information for the player top church. The bomb carrier ends up throwing a nade, finding that damage on the locks. Again, 10 HP, just barely holding on to their life, but the damage was good enough to be able to plant that bomb and hold the space, knowing that the cross from Vines was being held. And then you saw an immediate, once that bomb was just about a mustachio's hair away from being planted, Alan, you saw the immediate turnaround of 3 different arrows from Rutgers go into that post plant. Specifically for the player that went all the way into the back towards their spawn. That post-plant situation is just so well played out from Rutgers. Again, good fundamental search and destroy. Now they're coming off with a very aggressive defense. Perseus for first blood on the locks. And again, that's going to dissuade SpaghettiOs from planting the bomb, and it opens up the flank.
This is so brilliant. This round is absolutely brilliant. I believe it's ZB3 who stun checks outside. And as soon as he gets the confirmation, Rutgers, who had 2 players mid-map, say we're rushing through it. If we know they're playing outer and they've been hit by a stun, we're going to have numbers mid-map. I don't know how much that is predetermined, but if that's a full-on set piece, that's brilliant. It really is. I really like that a lot from Rutgers.
It almost feels like, especially from an analyst standpoint, and I'm sure that you're feeling the same way, looking at how the arrows are just moving throughout the map. I mean, we keep on gassing up like all their plays too. What comes off of that is just, it's got to just be fantastic small talk. It's got to be really, really good communication coming through from Rutgers. Up now 5-1, map point to go up 2-0. And again, it's another aggressive hit. Stun checks, nade checks are going to dissuade the player up top church, which is Locks again, from peeking or throwing nades to stop this plant coming through at A. And all numbers are still up for Rutgers.
That nade connects as well. Now Hybrid has the freedom to move a little bit further forward inside of bottom church. SpaghettiOs from this position with an MP40, I sure you're not going to be feeling very confident about any gunfight you're about to take, including the one that's coming from behind. Hybrid for one. Through the doors. Oh, he gets the second! Insult meet injury, why don't you? And the last player left alive is JT Speed, and from his trade onto Hybrid, every single Scarlet Knight knows exactly where he's positioned, though JT Speed will make it interesting. Actually picks up the MP40, incredible finesse out of the young man, but in the end, it just does not really matter, says every Lincoln Park fan ever. 6-1 the tally, and this has been a dominating 2-map series so far for our Rutgers.
These Rutgers players are nasty.
Yeah, bro, they're more than top 20 caliber, I'll tell you that much.
I mean, like, I'm getting told by some really respectable sources that NJIT's Search and Destroy is the next thing coming. And I was ready to believe it. I really was. But off of that, I got to hit up some of these Rutgers players and talk to them about that 6-0 loss that they got against Farmingdale in week number 1. Just to maybe see what the transition from week 1 into this week looks like, because the trust is there.
That was clean.
Obviously, the communication's there. It was clean, Alan, because you got to see all the different set plays. They were able to resurface the same exact plays every single time, just knowing that there was just that one player that was putting themselves in a different position to be able to watch across, being able to read NJIT's tendencies. It felt like they went to the library and checked them out like a book, man. That was beautiful Search and Destroy out of Rutgers.
Yeah, both they've read 3 or 4 times, by the way.
For sure, yeah.
Wow. I do have to just kind of tip the hat. I mean, we expect to see really well thought out set pieces, whether it's offense, but especially on the defensive side, at the higher levels, top tier challengers, of course, CDL. But I would be really curious to see what a lot of those set pieces were kind of going to do if they didn't find information, like the ZB3 and opening offense. Like, he's able to pull all 3 defense members from NJIT away from the middle of the map and over towards topside A. The play the whole time was designed to go B. In that last defense, same idea. Stun check outer. You catch everything past the monument, and Rutgers says, bet, we're going to full rush down middle, take away that key position, and never allow a chance for the A-bound to be planted. It really is well designed. I really do have to give tip of the hat to them.
Yeah, it is tippable to say the least. I mean, Rutgers have always been a college that we've been talking about in the CCL, that they always end up having the mocks, and we always know that they can bring the heat when it comes down to certain matchups. Sure, it did not exactly have the ending of the CCL 21 season that they were expecting, but now that you end up having these players, ZB3 seems to have a strong 3 players joining them this season, man, because if this is the Rutgers that we're getting through the rest of the season, not only are we in for a long one out of this Northeast Division D, but we are in for a treat when it comes to the rest of the matchups to be played.
Absolutely the case, and hey, we very well may be into a treat for map number 3, but we gotta step away for this brief moment. We won't go too far, though. Don't worry. We'll be back, map number 3, right after this. Hey, you, it's us. We're back. Map number 3 on the way and the on-deck circle, and so far, the only thing being hit out of the park right now are the snowball pitches that NJIT are throwing to Rutgers, because it has been a stop, which I don't think anyone really fully expected. Maybe a couple of people from either school, but I was going into this one expecting to at least see 4 maps, or if it were to be a 3-0, the whole idea would be that all 3 maps would be relatively close. We got 2 top 25 teams in the mix here, for crying out loud. We look over how things have gone so far, and it has been anything but close. 250-131 and 6-1 for the Scarlet Knights, showing that upsets don't just happen in college basketball around Rutgers, although you really can't call this a full upset. But hey, they're happily taking care of ranked opponents in a multitude of facets at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be completely honest here. I don't intake, or I don't put in my own top 25 rankings. I prefer to go towards reputable sources that watch the scene very, very directly. And what they were telling me was that this was going to be a very strong search and destroy for NJIT. That's not the case. So I feel like I need to really change who I'm talking to here, Alan, because this Rutgers team is just coming out of the woodwork absolutely swinging. The numbers don't make sense. If I had papers, I would throw them up in the air because they just don't make sense anymore, but I can't throw my monitor in the air. I love my monitor. But now we got to go in towards this Tuscan hardpoint. And everything that we've seen off of Bocage hardpoint and Tuscan search and destroy has one thing that is very alarming for NJIT, and that is the mixiness and the confidence of Rutgers' SMG lineup. That needs to almost be mirrored, if not done better, so that way when you are thinking about rotations on Tuscan from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and going into 5, to be more potent for NJIT, to get themselves set up. You don't have to find all the kills, but you got to find the right kills at the right time here on Tuscan.
I think the biggest thing is you have to know when to cut your losses to give yourself a look at a solid setup. I feel like at this level, we very regularly see people kind of just, forehead rushing hard points, even when they're not in a great position to, and you're down big. Like, we saw that, I won't say necessarily fully unfold on Bocage, but hey, know when you just have to take an L on the chin and just set yourself up to try to recover on the next hill. Don't scramble and play this large recovery game from start to finish. And this conversation point becomes extra potent when you've got Rutgers doing what they're doing right now through the first 30 seconds.
And you still got 20 seconds left to play, right? This is now the time where you're going to expect Rutgers to start hitting all the way through. NJIT are trying to battle for the scrap time, and they will be successful of it. But the one issue I have here is that Hybrid was able to slip the net. They're inside a church, and now you're going to have the squad spawns come through for Rutgers.
Got to contest here. And you really need to keep your life if you're locks. Red dot chasing will open up a little bit of a pathway here over through the bottom side of the minimap, but look how quickly Rutgers are coming to deal with locks. Oh my goodness. I don't even know if he's got the full ability to full calm, like this is where the kill is, this is where I'm going, before Rutgers is already trying to stranglehold his position. And now, from inside the hard point, the battle rages through Church ZB3. Make sure that the spawns will, at least at some point, be contested. Locke still got favored with one blessed up the backside of Church, but here comes they from Rutgers, and they break on their first attempt.
Yeah, and that was a great little resurgence that came through from NJIT, at least being able to stay alive for a while. That you could definitely tip your hat to Locks for how much time that they had bought for the rest of NJIT to be able to battle their way back. But again, the proactiveness that is coming out from Rutgers Esports to be able to not only send players to battle for the scrap time, but also send players all the way across the map to try to battle on these rotational kills. These are things that you definitely want to be able to see, but it comes up a little bit flat. NJIT are very fast to be able to get all the way in the back, but no one was watching. The flank Perseus is in. Money G is going to deal with them, and that's a big kill to be able to be found. That way, at least you might be able to get in for the initial time here.
But again, look how fast Rutgers are playing. Even without numbers going on the rotation, they're straight through the middle of the map. It's such good awareness of knowing what Vanguard's playstyle needs to be, especially when you've got things like squad spawns. Like, you push that far forward that fast, you just never know what's going to happen off the respawn timer. You might just get blessed and all of your teammates will just spawn in the back, but this time it ends up in a block and then eventually a flip. It's just the speed that Rutgers is playing at right now is borderline disrespectful to NJIT.
And you can even look from top to bottom. Look, I mean, from both sides, through about 2.5 worth of hard points that we played, there's not really many players that stand out. You got 11-6 for Perseus, 11-6 for Locks. That's your big standouts for these two different teams, but it's at the time that Rutgers are flying at NJIT to be able to find these crucial kills, to be able to break in and get players inside a restaurant, will keep NJIT on their heels. Now we rotate over towards Church, where Rutgers seem to have the best timing to be able to lose a gunfight. They're going to be in for Church for the time being, but NJIT really making an argument for battling for scrap, keeping this lead for the time being. Here comes the break.
Got to see just a little bit of polish here from NJIT when it comes to trying to get this break underway as Rutgers starts continuing to spawn in the back. And the numbers are persistent over the hard point itself. Great stun comes through. Hybrid trying to create space with the frag of his own, doesn't need it. And P40 is good for his fourth elimination. Now turning attention to your front. Perseus beats you to the punch. It's just Rutgers hold looking very solid, and now NJIT have to really need to put something together here. You still got 25 seconds. You don't just want to give this away. So you got to find a way to try to break this. It's just too individualistic. That's one hit coming from the side. Here's another. SpaghettiOs does find elimination. He's trying to work around the back, but this is, again, just being picked apart. The reads are just too strong for Rutgers.
Yeah, one person per door. It really felt like, didn't it, Alan? And that's just not what you want to be able to see. You got to be able to find value simultaneously from two different sides with numbers if you're going to try to break inside P4, which, again, arguably is a very hard hill to break, or to hold, I should say, on Tuscan. And well, Rutgers are going to be able to walk away with some very hefty time, almost about 50 seconds, plus the rotation. ZB3 goes to the pistol, will find a kill. Ryuga's got the flank up top, and they're going to be able to find two. A clean wipe does come through marginally for Rutgers. They're going to be able to get into P5.
And this game has been, up until this last rotation, it's been a high game, and even at points, NJIT have been winning. It's just, you start to see the trends unfolding where, okay, NJIT, they recovered after maybe a mistake that has unfolded, but once those mistakes start to be punished, we start to get more staggering scorelines like this, and you start to see even the individual prowess of the Rutgers players as they continue to try to challenge into 1v multiples and walk away, at least finding a single. Scrap time will be forfeited, though. Rutgers going to concede this, so it will allow NJIT to keep this within margins, but we need to see a solid rotation and a solid hold from NJIT and the Highlanders if they're going to be able to really start to change this narrative around how this map is played so far.
And we need to see them solidify resurface gunfights, right? I mean, if they get wiped off the board, we need to see them resurface themselves for some serious scrap time, not just these last 5 to 10 seconds. That's not going to how you're breaking open Rutgers Esports. You got to be able to get in there with about 30 seconds remaining. Now you got streaks being called in for JT Speed. 4 to 5 in play. Won't be able to at least finalize that kill. And there were no players for NJIT that were up past the ruin side to be able to benefit from that space that was being provided. And from all of that, Rutgers were winning gunfights. They were able to get themselves some serious time on P1 of all places. And just when NJIT are starting to get their feet underneath them, Rutgers Esports, they're still over here. Hybrid's going to call in the glide bomb now. Going to get a lot of information just confirming P1 for their team. But more than that, solidifying the church spawns going into the column hill.
And the deal with Money G on the backside of this, too. So it's just another moment where, sure, NJIT are trying to keep this close, but what did we say all last year in Cold War? 40-20s are just not going to ever win you a hardpoint map.
Right.
So you've got to win this rotation and get a lockdown. A convincing kill feed would definitely aid in the effort. That's a 3 for 2, technically speaking, but the trades continue to make this go pinstripe. Ryuga 1v1, wins it. Oh, boy, that would have maybe flipped things around, but Rutgers spawning in will now mean all 4 members, once again, are reinforced, and they are looking pretty stalwart around this hill.
Yeah, it's the 3 for 1 that comes through on the front side of Church. Now, you're not going to upset these spawns. You even literally just off. Perseus spawned in on the backside of that truck. If you are not getting on the backside of the truck where you spawn in defensively for S&D, you're not upsetting these spawns. If you can get players that can flood through that top patio side and get over top of B2, that's certainly one way to break this hard point. But NJIT, they were trying to put the resources towards the middle of the map, try to get themselves inside a church. It's just going to come up absolutely flat. Now Hybrid, they got themselves yet another glide bomb, another 5 streak. They will end up seeing one player. Again, Fortify is in play. Won't be able to confirm that kill, but the damage will be called in for. Now we go over towards P3. NJIT will be here, at least for the initial time, but no one's watching Vines. Perseus, they're actually creating a lot of space for the teammates to try to move forward.
And Rutgers setting themselves up with SpaghettiOs, denies, playing from topside broken. So 4 for 1 goes through. Again, for NJIT, can you read where these spawns are coming from? You've got a really good lockdown position for Locks, backside middle on the Godhead in the back. And it looks like Money G, with his positioning, he has kind of figured out this hit is largely coming from the middle. Rutgers, aware that this has been called out, are now trying to open this up a different way. And why not just force it with a strafing run? Hybrid calls that through. Nade to assist. Ryuga from the back, and it's all turned chaos onto the fountain itself. Locks for 1, but he cannot hold on to his life, and that is what we're talking about. Clinical break from Rutgers.
Yeah, on all different sides, right? P3 here on Tuscan is the hardest hill to break. It has to come through on a multitude of fronts. Nades are going to open things up. Stun checks around the corners to guarantee where these players are located at. SpaghettiOs is going to battle over for 5 seconds, and we would really hope that they're going to be able to walk away with something more than this going forward. Luckily enough, Rutgers, from NJIT's perspective, are actually still spawning over by the roofs, and the rest of the team is actually slaying out. So they'll be in here for P4 for the time being. But again, another hard hill to be able to hold sufficiently, Alan, and they're going to have to keep their heads on a swivel and be able to read where the spawns are coming from.
It's again ZB this time on the delayed pinch. Hybrid also getting it from the back. 1v1 for the hill. We've seen this go Rutgers' way many times, but NJIT are going to try to back things up, and oh man, JT looked to try to maybe change up the angle, and he ends up running right into the Scarlet Knight reinforcements. So now you got to fight this from the inside of the hard point, and it's just not going well. Rutgers just, man, it really is a level of mastery comparatively what we're seeing out of the Highlanders at the moment.
It absolutely is. I mean, on all different fronts. Every single time that I say, oh, this is a hard hill to break, this is a hard hill to break, they just come flying in, they isolate the gunfights. Perseus is just spinning around, putting players on skates. 24 and 21 for the kid. How about that? Great opening for them as far as the season is concerned. 240 and counting all the way up. And now you got to look at the rotation over towards New. It's a big 1v1 for the hard point. SpaghettiOs will be able to win that, but the reinforcement's not exactly right around the corner.
Stun. The late stun for SpaghettiOs allows them a chance to finesse the 1v2. Good help from JT Speed. Keeps NJIT in the mix. All from Mercier. They don't know what the spawns are. They think they're getting flanked. That's just the mental chess that Rutgers have been playing. There's always somebody in the back you would have to feel like, and this time it's all from the front. Unfortunate, Team Nade will pretty much stop the push before it happens. But now with recovery starting to come through, Perseus looking to contest. Dives his way forward. Only collects one. Hybrid, he's been great around the hard point. Continues to do so. Frag nade cooked, but not able to get the MP40 back out in time. Leaves it to ZB3, who continues to keep Rutgers pressure on.
It's just the mechanical skill that we're seeing out of Hybrid and Perseus as well. I mean, to be able to convert a lot of these gunfights, it takes a lot of moxie for one, yes. Yeah. But break is in. Rutgers, last minute, they're going to be able to get in. They only needed a handful of seconds there, Alan. They're going to be able to find it. Just all off of isolation kills there at the end. NJIT, they certainly started to bring it back there at the end, but it was just too little, too late. The breaks, the openings, the gunfights, everything was just so clinical coming out from Rutgers as a whole on this hard point.
Look, credit where credit is due. Hybrid is playing the objective player for Rutgers, and he is looking unreal as far as entries are concerned in the CCL right now. I mean, he was more than positive in both the hard points. He was also the bomb carrier through the search and destroy. I think he went like 8 and 6 or something like that. Like, the guy's getting it done as the first one in, which is a super valuable asset in the long term, especially at this caliber where, hey, let's just call it how it is. NJIT is still a top 25 team going into this week. You made them look silly. Like, if that doesn't raise your stock to be above the top 15 in my mind, I don't know what is, because it's not just the fact that all collective 4 players are playing well. When you've got an objective player like Hybrid who's finding that much value against a team, by the way, who's not severely getting outgunned. Like, you look at the KDs for NJIT, the worst stat line you can see there is -7, which is not terrible considering how fast this game is played. And the fact that you've got your entry player going 31 and 20, topping your damage, that's an unbelievable asset for this Rutgers Esports team.
And just to hit the point one more time, as the OBJ player for Hybrid, I mean, sharing a lot of the legwork, you can see from hill time from top to bottom as far as Rutgers are concerned. Everybody over a minute or so, the 3 players around the 1 minute and 20-second margin. But it's always going to be those objective kills for me. And it's the 2 players that I highlighted throughout the entirety of the series. It was the Bokash hardpoint that opened up my eyes. It was the SMD on Tuscan that had my jaw on the floor. And then it was the hardpoint on Tuscan that basically shattered it like glass. 13 objective kills for Hybrid. 14 objective kills for Perseus. Their mechanical skill, their ability to be able to finesse their lives and being able to slowly inchworm their way into gunfights where they have no business being able to win it out. It's these little things for me, Alan, that really brought it home and swayed the decisions when it came down to that stomp that we saw on Bokaj, 250 to 131, a 6-minute or so search and destroy, 6-1, against a team that I was told was going to be gross on search and destroy. Rutgers made them look silly. And then that Tuscan hardpoint, again, competitive through the first set, but then a couple of money hills later, specifically on that P4 in the first set of hills, was really the solidification that this Rutgers esports team, Scarlet Knights, they're the real freaking deal, man.
Yeah, they sure are. Here's the thing, and I don't mean to paint a dark picture here for NJIT, because, look, at the end of the day, you're in a division where you still can get out top 3, which is surprising to say considering you've kind of lost a matchup that you didn't expect to lose against Rowan. But the top 3 from this division will be pulled into that elite top cut. You could still get there. So the season is absolutely not over by any means in any terms. But here's the deal. You can't lose to Rowan, and you can't get smoked like that versus Rutgers and then expect to be in the top echelons of CCL. So there's a lot of work to be done. That much I think is for sure. On the other side for Rutgers, I hate to say it. It's a really easy thing to say, but just keep doing what you're doing because you're showing us a lot of significant work throughout search and also the hard points that we had here today.
Well, it wouldn't be an I hold shift cast without a forehead statement, right? I mean, like, sure. But you're right. You're right. They have been able to come from the bounce, and this is off of the only map that they lost, by the way. The only stain on their record so far is that 6-0 search and destroy loss to Farmingdale. And again, if anybody from Rutgers is in chat, please DM me. Talk to me about how that ended up happening, because that what I just saw on Tuscan Search and Destroy versus NJIT would not suggest that you were going to get 6-0'd on any Search and Destroy map versus Farmingdale. No shade to Farmingdale whatsoever, but the way that we saw Rutgers play today, it must have just been, first week jitters. Maybe they didn't end up having a lot of confidence built on her. Maybe Search and Destroy was their weaker game mode. Regardless of it, they have been immediately able to turn around. And just to paint the picture just as another whole, it's not like this is a very contest-heavy division. This going forward, this was still the matchup to be number 1 in this division, in my opinion. And Rutgers just solidified it for me, man. Again, top 3 will be pulled up to that elite top cut once we do end up getting to that. But there's a lot of practice now for Rutgers University to be able to really nitpick, really try some fancy things, really get mixy with it with a lot of their setups in Search and Destroy, which already look quite good, by the way, to continuously break the ankles both mentally and physically in the game.
Well, that's what we got. Kind of an anticlimactic finish to the stream and for week 2, but I believe the Bravo stream is still going on. So if you're looking for more College COD action, make sure you head over to twitch.tv/collegecodbravo. Of course, with everything else CCL related, you're going to want to make sure you jump into the Discord and also follow along on Twitter at College COD. I think !Discord will get you a link to jump in. Anyone can join. There's a lot of 8s that happen. There's a lot of fun that happens. A lot of banter and a lot of talk that gets thrown around in there sometimes. But hey, that's going to do it here for us on the main stream. It's improper, but I hold shipped. It's been Sport on production. And, well, for behalf of all the teams that are out here trying to make all this work, thank you for tuning in. And we'll catch you guys next week for week number 3. Who's going to be turning up on top by then? We'll have to find out. Until that point, make sure you guys keep holding it down. So long.